talk a lot in the book, and sort of general consensus is that goals are good, quote unquote, if they are SMART goals. And SMART is a mnemonic coined by Paul Meyer, and it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And that's fine. SMART goals are good goals to have. We all like those adjectives, and the mnemonic is easy to remember. And I created this goal worksheet, and it's one I make my students use to help kind of put those adjectives into practice that can actually help you articulate a goal that's useful to you. And then I added another letter, a Q, for quantify. I think if we don't attempt to quantify our goals or translate them into financial terms, it's not really relevant what we can do budget-wise or income-wise or job-wise to help us get to our goals. So what I wanted to do is walk you through how this goal worksheet works. And I chose just a completely ridiculous example of a goal that I might have that I might use this worksheet to help me accomplish. And the goal I chose was to go to space. And I thought, okay, how do I make this goal more specific? Go to space, that's a little vague, right? So I went online and I figured out that Virgin Galactic can take me to space. And I decided my goal would be to go to space one time via Virgin Galactic. I've made that goal specific. And I've also made it measurable. One time is easy to count and it's easy to measure, right? So I've taken my unspecific, unmeasurable goal of to go to space, and I've made it specific and measurable, the first two criteria of Paul Meyer's mnemonic, by saying I'm going to use Virgin Galactic to go to space one time. And then I can time bound it. That means if I choose a deadline for this goal, it's much more likely that I'll accomplish it. I'll have some sort of parameter. I won't just go to space in the future, but I'm going to go to space by 2018. 5 years from now, it seemed kind of like a reasonable deadline, right? So using my little goal worksheet, I'd write in here, and I did this afternoon, so I can talk about it with you tonight. I'm going to go to space one time with Virgin Galactic by 2018. I've made my goal specific, measurable, and also time-bound, just in this top two boxes. And by picking 2018, it seemed kind of arbitrary, but 5 years seemed like a reasonable time frame to be able to get myself to space via this travel company, right? So immediately, my knee-jerk reaction is that this goal is probably attainable. It seems reasonable. If I wanted to go to space tomorrow, that's probably not going to happen. I have plans, but also the training process takes 3 whole days with Virgin Galactic. So I couldn't possibly go to space tomorrow. I'd need 3 days to prepare myself, right? So tomorrow, clearly not attainable. 5 years from now, probably attainable. But what I don't know is where in that 5-year period the goal goes from being totally unattainable to technically attainable or realistically attainable. And that's where the quantifying part comes in. And we'll come back to this in a second. But before I get onto the quantifying part, I want to talk about this R. Relevant. A goal has to be relevant. I hate this particular criteria. I think it's kind of ridiculous because I think anyone, especially a creative entrepreneur that's going through any type of goal setting exercise, is doing it for a goal that's relevant to him or her. I've never seen anyone pretend to even set a goal that's irrelevant in the context of their lives. Now, whether or not it's relevant isn't always obvious to an outsider. And that's the part of this that really bothers me about it. I think if we say that a goal has to be relevant, it imposes some sort of external criteria on the goal that shouldn't exist. For very creative individuals and creative entrepreneurs, whatever your goal is relevant to you. And I'll give you a personal example. In 2009, I decided I wanted to be a certified Pilates instructor. Everyone I told this to thought I was crazy because I had a job. I was a CPA, I was working for Juilliard. Why did I need to be a certified Pilates instructor? That made no sense. I had a good job, I could pay for my own Pilates classes, I had been practicing for a while, I knew what I was doing. Nobody thought this made any sense at all. But it doesn't matter what anybody else thought. It made sense to me because I was being asked to do more and more of these presentations and more public speaking, and I felt sort of ill-prepared in a lot of ways to do a lot of public presentations on very technical topics. So I figured I already love Pilates, I'm already pretty good at it. If I can figure out how to teach a total novice how to do the teaser and articulate it clearly and encourage the person and sort of build up their confidence so that we could get them to teaser, then talking through financial topics in front of anyone else would be a breeze. So the goal was relevant to me, even though it didn't appear to be relevant to anyone else. So ignore that criteria, especially if someone tells you your goal is irrelevant. because it only has to be relevant to you, and that's perfectly fine. So, my space goal, it's specific, it's measurable, and it's time-bound. Probably attainable, but we'll come back to that, and relevant because I said so. What do I need to get there? That's what these middle boxes in the worksheet do. They give you space to list out everything you'll need to get to space in the case of this particular goal. So I made a list. I'll need a Virgin Galactic ticket. How will I get it? You can book it on their website. It's a really easy process. You just put out your name and your credit card number and you have yourself a ticket to space. And then what's the cost? This is the important part where we start quantifying the steps that we need to do to get to our goals. The cost of a Virgin Galactic ticket, anyone want to guess?
$18,000.
$18,000, that's an excellent guess. Other guesses? Nope. Is it $1 million? That's a very, very good guess. So somewhere between $18,000 and $1 million. Yeah, it's $250,000. $250,000.
Now,
yeah, and you can go to space.
can you break that up on multiple credit cards? Or like, I'm not even that has a limit that big. I mean, one credit card.
That's a really
20
good
in cash.
I did look into that you have to pay in advance. There is a minimal deposit, and then your whole, balance is due before they'll actually give you a reservation. But I'm not sure how many credit cards you can use. Maybe one of those heavy black ones that you use that'll, you can charge $250,000 on it. But that's what my first step costs. $250,000, right? What is it? It's a Virgin Galactic ticket. How do I do it? I book it online through their little portal. And what does it cost? $250,000. Pretty obvious. Then I started reading a little more. I have to have a medical check. Makes sense. It seems like they would want to make sure I'm not going to die in space or something, right? That's included in the cost. So I have to have my medical check and I have to go to their little facility, but there's no additional cost to that. I also have to complete their pre-flight training package. It's 3 whole days of training that I need before I go to space with Virgin Galactic, right? So that has a time cost, 3 days, but not a monetary cost. It's included with my price of my ticket. So those are sort of the obvious things, right? And the other obvious things like spacesuit or whatever else, they're all going to give you as part of your ticket. But there are some unobvious things that you have to think about as you're quantifying your goals as well. And in my space example, I came up with time off work. So I'd have to cancel classes if it was going to fall during the semester, or reschedule presentations or whatever else I needed to do. I need time off work. Childcare, because I wouldn't be able to pick up my daughter from school or drop her off. I'd need someone to handle that, and presumably have to pay someone for that. I would have to get myself to the spaceport, which is in New Mexico. So the round trip ticket from space is included, but not my flight to New Mexico or a rental car. So that might cost another $700 or $800 or so. And then I would need to update my will. Those are the things I came up with that I would need to do before I go to space. And talking to my attorney to update my will, just in case, would be about another $100. So I came up with $251,000 that I would need to get myself to space. And if I kept thinking about this, I'd probably think about other things that weren't on this list as well. In fact, update will didn't come to me until much later this afternoon. I thought I had figured it all out, and then I was like, oh, I should probably update my will too. And that's sort of the beauty of this process. It's supposed to be iterative. You're supposed to go back and forth and update things as you think about them later. Nothing you do financially, whether it's a budget or tracking your expenses or whatnot, will be perfect the first time. It's not supposed to be. It's like the first draft of something you write. It's kind of just what you dump out there, and then you can refine it later, and that is perfectly fine. There aren't rules when it comes to quantifying your goals or budgeting for your professional careers. There just aren't, right? You just kind of refine the process as you go through it, and that's okay. So, $251,000. That's my total cost. I added everything up here on my total cost line, and then I counted up how many years I had until the end of my goal, and it was 5 years. So I take the total cost divided by 5 years, and figure out that the amount I have to put towards this goal each period is $50,000, $50,200 a year. If my goal were shorter term, like 3 months, I would divide the amount over 3 months and come up with a monthly amount. But I wanted to express it in years, because that kind of seemed reasonable. So once I'm looking at this amount, $50,200 per 5 years, I can then ask myself whether or not that amount is attainable. Can I save or put towards this goal $50,200 per year for each of the next